giri per Nedved, gol! Pirlo, la conclusione in rete! Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco! Del Piero, gol! Alex, palla di Pogacar, Pogba, rete! Un gol incredibile! Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium!
Ciao tifosi Bianconeri, hello and welcome to episode 340 of the Turin Giants podcast. We are here to provide our post-game reactions, perspective and analysis for Juve-Benfica that just wrapped up maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. I am Kevin, your host for this episode. We are live on YouTube and I'm joined by two, maybe a third will be joining us shortly if he can figure out his internet and computer situation.
Poor Frederic.
But Jack and Zach, how are you guys? Welcome to this post game.
I called it on BetBay's program, 2-0 victory. We don't need to worry about what I predicted for the Cagliari game, but we can just focus on me getting it right today. It was ugly, but it was a much-needed win, guaranteed us into the next round, and that's, I think, a load off when we think about the run of games coming up that we can somewhat mentally deprioritize Monaco and to get the win in Napoli and all the games to follow.
Jack, how's it going, my friend?
Very simply, Kev, I think on our side of the pond, we say 2-0.
Well, that's on our side of the pond and further south.
When the men's national team wins, I've definitely seen that plenty. Posted all over socials and in the papers, etc.
You're in the sort of northeast. I'm in the down here where I'm at. That's true. That is true.
2-0, 2 pere. We won the match 2-0. This game was a tale of two halves, right? A very sloppy first half, I think, admittedly from both sides, right? It just was not a very watchable, entertaining first half of football that I think kind of spilled into the second half for us with a really rough and shaky start and a lot of individual errors, but eventually made way for some better play. And we have the two great goals from Thuram and McKenney. Lady Luck was on our side with the Benfica missed penalty. I'm not going to laugh. I'm going to bite my tongue. That could have happened to anybody, and I don't want karma to come back and bite us. That was just very unfortunate for them. But in the end, Juve holds on for the 2-0 win. And as Zach said, this guarantees us moving on into the knockout phases of the Champions League. So we can, after what was, I know, a very challenging start to this competition, we can kind of take a breath here and look forward to progressing. But before we get into it, just a few notes on Turin Giants. If you're listening to this or watching, you have obviously found us. Thank you. If you are a return and a repeat listener or viewer, thank you. We appreciate you spending time with us, consuming our content. We know there are so many options out there across the Juve community to listen, to read, to watch, and thank you for spending some time with us. We are live on YouTube, and we do a lot of post-game shows, and a lot of our content lives on YouTube at our channel, Turin Giants Official. You can also find us on audio format on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts as well. We're active on Instagram at Turin Giants, and you can check out our website, turingiants.com, for a lot of fun merchandise. Under the Turin Giants umbrella, we actually run several different series. Our post-game episodes, as we are here, are our bread and butter for Turin Giants. But we also have The Scoop, which focuses on transfer news and the Juventus Mercato. We have It's Black and White, in which Zach and Frederic, who may be joining us soon, and sometimes some guests, intentionally take opposing sides to debate hot topics across the Juventus community. And then the newest addition to the lineup includes Turin Giants After Hours, where Farhad interviews key figures, again, across the Juve community. The first one and most recent featured Marco Messina of IFB and CBS Sports / Paramount Plus. If you didn't check that out, please do. Really, really intriguing interview. But with that, let's get into it. For those of you here in the YouTube live, thank you for being with us. A lot of repeat names. Mitch, Azzurri, we have Yosef, we have Mohammed, Del Piero 109, Mikel, so many other people. Thank you for being here with us. Guys, let's get into it. I know not the best of matches, but we got some good goals that we'll unpack in a little bit. But to get things started, Max, starting with you, very brief. Just what's your takeaway from that match? Give us one thing to get us started with.
That the key term in winning ugly is the winning portion of it. Because you can play beautifully against Lecce and draw, and you can outplay a Cagliari team and lose. So the winning part is the most important. Worry about everything that comes after.
It's the only thing that matters.
Zach and Jack. This isn't gonna roll off the tongue as easily here.
That's all right. We'll take it.
Jack, give me your takeaway here.
I have to agree with Zach. Right, l'unica cosa che conta, right, is the win. We needed to come away with 3 points. I think, especially in light of, I think, Zach, you said the upcoming schedule and how, not that we want to completely ignore a game next week against Monaco, but the outcome isn't going to make or break us. We have a big fixture coming up and a lot of big fixtures to follow. So it was really important to get 3 points, not only for the Champions League table, but also to relieve a bit of pressure on this team that's kind of trying to find its feet after a good month and a half, and then some surprise results in the last 3 weeks.
Absolutely. So traditionally, we get started with the starting 11. We see the second match in a row. I think the second one with a formal broadcasted on TV and on different football websites, the 4-2-3-1, lining up formally like that. I think the only change from the previous match was Thuram coming in for Koopmeiners, right? That was the only change from Cagliari.
Yeah, and I think when you saw this lineup, it was many people would say it's the strongest lineup. In fact, we had a discussion about if Chico's healthy, does he play over Moretti based on how things shaped up and everything? And I mean, to speak about that first half with this lineup, it did not go to plan.
No, it didn't, and we'll talk about that in a bit. I mean, is anything else, Jack? Would you have liked to see anything different in this starting lineup, given what we saw against Cagliari, knowing that we have this huge match against Napoli at the weekend? Is this what you would have done?
Probably. I think we needed to put our strongest lineup out there today. I'm still curious of Miretti in that pocket of space behind the striker. I think he had some good moments. He did, a few minutes into the game. I know we're going to get into it. He takes too many touches. He had opportunities to shoot, and he takes too many touches on the ball. I think if you're playing in that position, you need a lot more one-touch football, right? Your responsibility there is to move the ball, north and south, and then to get the ball east and west when people are open on the flanks. And he takes a lot of touches. So that's the only thing. But I don't know who you plug in there that's going to do the job, right? We don't necessarily have a natural number 10. Yildiz could probably do the job, but then you end up with who plays out on the left channel on the left side.
Yildiz doesn't want to play there.
No, I don't think he does either. I think he likes making those runs in from the channel. I mean, he ripped a couple of shots again today. His conversion rate sucks, but that's his move. That's his bread and butter, and he keeps going back to it.
Yeah, I think he's destined to play there later in his career, but I think for the time being, he likes that protection of the sideline and being able to cut in. I don't think he's ready for that open space. So I think, not much, I think, to unpack here on the starting 11. I mean, I don't think there was any way that Openda was going to start over David. I guess the only Zach, to your point, the only change that maybe could have been reasonably considered was Chico from minute one, either for Miretti or McKenney, but doesn't seem like McKenney has the ability to be moved off the field in a Spalletti starting 11 these days.
I don't like the balance of the squad up front if McKenney is on the bench and Chico is up front with Miretti and Yildiz. McKenney provides some defensive solidity when we drop back that Chico doesn't provide us, especially out wide.
Yeah.
And who else, if he's not in there, who's making the overlapping and or complementary aggressive runs into the box to Jonathan David? We saw several times today where Jonathan David and McKenney were making, kind of overlapping or intertwining runs in the box to create layers that a theoretical cross would yield fruit. And we saw the interplay between the two in the center of the pitch on the goal. There's not anybody else reliably doing that kind of work than McKenney. I mean, Miretti, we saw it a couple of games ago. He did that with Jonathan David and McKenney really well, but he hasn't necessarily been able to fully replicate that impact since. And so it's a matter of consistency with him. We know he can do it. Now it's up to him to do it. Yeah. And other than Miretti, I don't know who else. You could say Jonathan David could play there and put Openda up, but that might branch into its own argument of whether that's advisable and whether that's why we acquired Jonathan David.
If we had a real number 9, or if Vlahovic was available and still a part of any plans, I think David behind Vlahovic could work. But obviously that's not a situation we have, and it's not really worth unpacking too much right now. Let's actually get into the first half. I mean, looking at even some of my notes here, it's actually very funny because I liked the first couple minutes. I think that the kickoff I actually loved. Right,
dude, that was awesome.
That was a great run of play. I mean, could you imagine if that had been finished off? And I thought there was a couple bright moments, and then just collapsed. It was poor play. It was slow. It was misplaced passes, heavy touches. What was going on?
Kevin, did it start to go sideways at about the 11th minute when I text you Cambiaso just tackled the ball away from Yildiz? I think that was it, right?
That was the 9th minute when Cambiaso tripped Yildiz, but I think he had his first kind of mini blackout moment that we know that he is accustomed to and almost destined to have in every match. And I'm sure this will cue the comments here in the live chat around just continual frustration with Cambiaso's play. But Jack, I think you're right. I think that was kind of the catalyst for what transpired for the rest of the half.
There are always phases of the course of a football game. Like, we all know this is obvious stuff, and it's up to the team to be able to react to each sort of phase with a clear plan of action. And after that first 10-minute salvo, if we can call it that, where we had at least 3 legitimate opportunities in my mind, the opening kickoff, I consider one. You had the great cross to Yildiz to the back post, and you had the Yildiz curler that was saved over that course of that 10-minute span. After that, the team didn't seem to know what to do next, as Benfica was trying to push back at the aggression with which Juventus was applying and trying to win the ball. And I think their response to it was to try harder, which we all love to see. But when you try harder and forget how to play football, it doesn't really do you any favors. And that's what it seemed to me, is people were trying too hard and they were making boneheaded decisions. Locatelli played 2 passes like right on the top of our box to the other team. Kelly gave up the ball once. Miretti gave up the ball a few times. Cambiaso continually forgot what color he was playing for. And those kind of things snowball. And I think there were times, Kevin, where we were texting that Benfica could score any second now. And it's true, because we lost our head. And
that 20 to 25 minute mark, we were atrocious. It was just a complete comedy of errors. I think that started with Thuram had the ball in the opposition third, coughed it up, and then the counterattack that he gave up. It's just every time we tried to get out of our half of the field for the next 5 to 6 minutes was just, it was comical in a very negative sense.
To your point, Zach, about the natural ebb and flow of a game and sort of understanding. Hey,
He's back. He's back.
For those listening
Back
in
from the
audio
dead.
format, we have Frederic, who has joined the party. Frederic, how's your internet?
Well, there's our answer.
That could not have been
And
more
he's-
perfectly timed.
And he's gone. And
so
he's
not
gone.
good.
oh goodness.
Zach, I want to stick with you for more of a tactical question, and I didn't prepare you for this. So we on paper we were a 4-2-3-1, but when it came to the actual implementation of that play, at times it didn't look like that at all, and we had Locatelli dropping back into what almost seemed like a back three of Kelly, Bremer, Locatelli. You had Kalulu pushing up high on the right side. You had Cambiasso coming in and almost partnering Thuram, and it was this like 3-2-5-1
because David drifted
4-1-ish. Like what was going on there? What were we seeing? Because it wasn't working.
Well, you want to know what we were seeing? We were seeing Mota ball. That's exactly how we formed in possession under Mota. We a 3-2-5 with David drifting deep, where you had the same type of situation. I mean, Mota, for different reasons, wasn't working, but that's exactly how they positioned themselves. And I think today it was more mentality and execution than necessarily the Spalletti's direction, because whatever they were trying to do, they were not able to pull it off. And even if you come in with the most brilliant strategy in the history of mankind, if it's not working for whatever reason, because the players just don't have it that day, you have to change it up, either with the tactics or the personnel. And that is where Spalletti has gotten it mostly right this year. And I think the halftime switch, just kind of reorienting people's minds and then taking out Moretti, who was poor, and putting in Chico, was able to still play in a similar fashion, but surgically fixed a couple areas that were causing this formation that Spalletti was convinced would work to actually work.
I'm glad we abandoned that tactic was not working well.
But it was, I mean, look, when you think about it though, if we play that way against Napoli, for instance, we could see a completely different result in the positive, simply by virtue of how bad the players were today. They were so sloppy. It's hard to execute any strategy with how they were playing. You know, if you can't complete a pass, if you keep coughing it up, and then you have the snowball effect mentally and tactically of where you are and who needs to go, then your strategy blows up in your face, even if it is on its day the best strategy in the world. That's kind of what I'm emphasizing here, Kevin, is it was today we needed to go away from it because the players were out of whack. But that doesn't mean the strategy itself was bad. I think you're going to see, and I'm saying this because I think you're going to see it again in the very near future. And it's about, and we'll be looking to whether the players can execute it on that day. Today was not that day.
Frederic, welcome back to the program. We'll hope your internet lasts more than a few seconds here.
It should.
Would love for you just to offer your thoughts on the first half.
It was a very rough first half, simply because we were not accustomed to the tempo, and this is the Achilles heel of this team. If the tempo gets cranked up a notch, we lose ourselves, and I think that's all tactics and coaches aside. It's just due to the fact that a lot of our players are, not going to say mediocre because that's a stretch, but are just not good enough. And I feel that, the mental aspect of not starting a game properly and not being as confident as you should be, especially in the first half, plays tricks on this team. I think we just need a lot of tweaks in order for this team to become more of a team that can dominate a game from the get-go and that can, pull the game towards itself, because now we're just undergoing games at times. Even though it was a different game than the one we saw at Cagliari, but I still feel that the level that we should, obtain is a bit hampered by the fact that we can't control the pace or the tempo. We suffer pace and tempo switches a lot, and you need those experienced players, those qualitatively decent players, in order to limit that factor, and we don't have that. So we suffered Benfica. We were very sloppy. We were very insecure, not focused, and the slowness of players like Moretti really comes to the surface at that point, and then you undergo the game completely, and that's difficult to get back from. But we did it.
We did. Jack, was there anything positive to take away from the first half that gave you confidence that we could see a different side come out after halftime?
Yeah, the few times that Thuram carried the ball forward with pace, to sort of even go off of Fred's point, right? When we don't play with pace, we find ourselves in difficult situations. A few times we did move the ball with pace, whether he was carrying it or it was him or Locatelli making a progressive pass, or those passes in the final third, moving the ball quickly. I thought there was something positive to take out of the first half in that regard. And that gave me some hope for the second half. Albeit we didn't see it in the first few minutes of the second half, we did see Thuram make a few runs again. And again, when he makes the runs through the lines, when he's breaking lines with his runs, we definitely put them on the back foot, and they struggled a little bit more to collapse the spaces.
And I think despite what overall was a poor first half, still finished with, I think here, possession was balanced 50-50. We had forced 2 saves, 5 total shots, 2 big chances, according to SofaScore. Our finishing is letting us down. Like, we did have a couple nice chances, despite the overall quality of play being subpar in the first half. Zach, why can't we remember our shooting boots? What's going on?
I think part of it from a striker perspective is confidence and form, and I think for the rest of the team, it's sort of the mentality. I was going to say confidence again, but we all played football. There is a mentality that you need to have that you're going to score, and when you don't go into positions like that, you struggle to convert chances. We are a team, especially with Jonathan David as our forward, considering how he likes to play, that will require team goals. We're not going to have one striker put up 40 goals on this team. That's not how we're built. So other people need to step up, and other than Yildiz, nobody has. And so it gets into, why is Chico underperforming in terms of his normal production, right? Up until Spalletti's appointment, why has McKenney been failing to convert? Luckily, he has started to, and guess what happened? He starts to convert. We're getting goals from another source other than Yildiz, and we start to go on a run of games. But we need to have other people who are put in this position. Thuram, before today, has had a lot of good shooting opportunities, and they go anywhere but the goal. The team needs to reform their mentality in scoring positions with the idea that the goals aren't going to come from somebody else. They're going to come from each and every one of you.
Frederic, after that relatively dreadful first half, channel your Inter Spalletti. I don't like how that sounds, the Inter Spalletti, given that he did coach at Inter. Your internal Spalletti. What are you saying to the team at halftime?
I'd be furious. This is a do or die game in every sense of the word. You're at home. You're playing a Benfica that really isn't the Benfica of old. You have every chance to do well and qualify for the next round, which makes a huge difference for this team in terms of financial perspective. Yet you fail to do so. So, and I can understand the pressure. I can understand the nerves and whatever, but that shouldn't be an excuse at this level. So I'm pretty sure Spalletti gave him hell. And I think it was obvious and apparent when they came out of the dressing room that they had a bit more pepper up their ass, so to speak. Of course, you see some changes. You see the Chico Mirelli substitution, which in my opinion was what this team and the game needed. However, I think, like Zach already mentioned, it's that mentality, and we keep on rambling about that mentality. That's something you can coach, you can try to help with, but at a certain point, you need the players to step up and start showing this mentality out of their own, starting the game with a hunger and a passion to win, and that was not the case. So I think Spalletti really gave him hell there, and rightfully so, because if you look at the aspects of the game, it was abysmal the way we started.
But Jack, it didn't really land properly. If I assume what Frederic said is got to be somewhat close to what Spalletti he shared, and if that was the message, just what were you observing in the first couple of minutes of that second half? Because it was just as poor, if not worse.
It was horrible.
Just before, when Fred tried to log on, I was trying to say something off of what Zach had said, and now Fred just reminded me. So because of the comments that he made, Zach earlier mentioned about the ebb and flow of the game, and there was one point in the first half, which is why I'll agree with Fred that it was probably a shouting, throwing water bottles kind of halftime speech. You saw Spalletti on the sideline was on fire. And it was one of those moments in the game where we're just giving the ball away in our own half for no reason. It's lack of technical quality, but also a lack of understanding the moment and how to play out of that moment. Right? We couldn't possess the ball. So in my mind, that is the first thing that I'm talking about in the locker room. We need to, you got to pull almost like an Allegri, right? Like calma, right? We need to possess the ball. We have to have the ball. We need to move it to feet. We need to find open spaces. We need to play the ball in the channel or make a run to try to break some lines. But that to me would have been a crux of the halftime speech to push them into the second half. The first 7-8 minutes of the second half, I don't know. I don't know if they were trying. They couldn't complete more than 2 passes in a row.
That was so sloppy.
It was so sloppy. First touches were sloppy. Ball sailing over Cambiaso's head. Just, it was ugly. It was ugly.
Well, the 2 things on that. One, you got to account for the fact that Mourinho also Benfica needed to win. So he came out and said, this is a game that we can take. There's an opportunity here. This is a sloppy, beatable Juventus. And Benfica came out ready to play that second half too. And we didn't really wake up from the mistakes in the first part. And the second thing is, and I was really upset at this for the first 10 minutes after halftime with Thuram, simply because our struggle was cleanly building up from deep. There was a lot of space, actually, for us to weave through, and we just kept passing into a cul-de-sac of defenders and forcing things. Thuram needed to shift over and assist and do more also with his pace and his dribbling to create space. And he was drifting away from where the ball was and wasn't providing the support, at least in my opinion, to help provide coverage for our team to release pressure when they were getting condensed by Benfica midfielders and forwards. And those are the little things that you need to do on a day where, Locatelli, we talk about the 100 touch of games, 100 passes, 47 long pass. That was not his day today. Locatelli did not really have his passing boots on. We needed people to help out. And for those 10 minutes, I looked at him especially because you couldn't even get the ball to Chico, Yildiz, or David. It was dying in the midfield, and it wasn't doing enough. He wasn't doing enough to help Locatelli.
But then things changed. That first 10 minutes were pretty terrible. We started possessing a little bit better, and then Thuram pops up with, which was a very well taken goal. Who feels confident in walking us through that? Who has the best recall on it?
I got it.
Zach. All right. So, over to you, my friend. And
this is one thing I want to just briefly note. Chico did not have an overall great appearance off the bench, but he was extremely important at about the 54th minute mark to changed the momentum back to ours. When he started to get involved and we were able to release the ball from the midfield and bypass that press, he had a series of really good runs. Starting in the 54th minute, that culminated into a, I believe, Kalulu cross into McKenney that was saved. Within a few minutes back, we win the ball back up high. The ball gets fed into, let's see, Chico again, coming through, cutting into the middle, gives it to Thuram, who passes it into David. David, I'm sorry, I got distracted by a comment. Yes, that is Milik behind me. Yeah, he's still on the roster, y'all. But David doesn't really get an assist because more so what he does is he just bodies the defender out of the way of Thuram, who still has a lot of work to do, finds the space and slots it really well, low and hard on the ground, by a very tall keeper who takes a long time to get low. And I think that's the kind of play, one, that we need from David and help to bring midfielders into play. And two, what did I say earlier? We need team goals. Thuram has had a ton of opportunities this year and has wasted almost all of them. This, I think, was a huge moment for him, huge moment for the team, obviously. And hopefully a model with which we can score more goals in the future, because this is exactly what needs to happen, whether you like him or not. If David is your striker, this is how he helps contribute.
Any other reactions to the goal?
Yeah, if I may. I think it was a bit of a luck of the draw as well. We score at the perfect time. We were lucky to score because prior to that, there wasn't anything, making you think that, we're going to score any minute now.
No.
Luckily we did. And at the exact right time, because it was at that moment that Benfica was trying to muster up a bit of heart in order to, get through to our defense and maybe be a bit more dominating attack-wise. But, we silenced them with that goal. And I think the team that Benfica is at this moment is pretty parallel to the situation that Juventus is in terms of mentality and confidence. And that first goal was enough for them to basically be quieted by our advantage. So we scored it at the perfect time, to be honest. And it was a good thing to see somebody from our midfield score, which we indicated earlier on, which is something that's necessary. And I think this is one of the main reasons that we want a real number 9, because our inability and our ineptness to score is at times confounding. We have possession, we create opportunities, yet the ball doesn't seem to go in, and most of the times it comes back to bite us in the ass. If you look at the Lecce game, if you look at the Cagliari game, I think this is something Spalletti wants to avoid, and I'm very thankful that Thuram did score that goal, because I'm not sure what would happen if he didn't, because I'm pretty sure as the moments passed on, we would have lost confidence ourselves as well. And it would have been, difficult. It would get difficult by the minute to get a goal in. And credit where credit due. Also, Benfica had their opportunities, and especially with other moments in the game to get a goal from us or get a goal back. So it was a critical time, and I'm glad that it was Thuram who was the one to put it in the back of the net.
It was definitely at the perfect time and against the run of play. A goal was coming, and we weren't the likely ones to score. It looked like they were more likely to score. They were starting to put the pressure on. They were moving the ball forward. And it might have been mentioned earlier where they had to come out and win. They saw we were scattered at the beginning of the second half, and you saw them putting pressure on our back line. You saw them putting pressure on the midfielders in transition. Well, their transitions were easy. We were giving them the ball back, so sort of kind of passing it right back to them. But the goal had to change the game one way or the other. A goal for Benfica would have made it very, very difficult for us to come back. They would have parked the bus. This was Benfica's opportunity at 3 points to get themselves off of the bottom half, that bottom fourth or third of the table, because next week they have a really pissed off Manchester City, right? So they have an uphill battle now just to try to get into the top 24. this was their opportunity. They might even have mentioned that in the broadcast, the CBS broadcast at some point, right? That this is the game Benfica would come to win. And I think they smelled blood in the water when we were sloppy at the beginning of the second half. So that goal, yes, against the run of play, but very timely, and it deflated them. You could tell some of them kind of lost some wind in their sails after that ball went in.
No, I think it is Real Madrid. I think Del Piero 1-0, and I think you're right. I think they're at Madrid now, but a very challenging test nonetheless. And given how off or on Juve can be at any given moment, this was certainly the time. And I mean, Benfica comes into this unbeaten against Juve in the last 7 matches, right? Going all the way back to 2012. The play that we've had between Juve and Benfica, I think I might be switching the numbers. It's either 4 Benfica wins and 3 draws, or 3 wins and 4 draws. But we snap that streak at in the eighth match in recent history. But that was their chance, and especially with how sloppy we were playing, that was their chance. And Frederic said incredibly well, like, that was critical to be finished in that moment, and that spurs on continued positive play for the next couple of minutes, in which I might be just a victim of the moment here, but I really want to go back and rewatch it. I think that McKenney goal is a candidate for like team goal of the season for this Juventus side. And I'm not sure. The announcer certainly, I don't think, gave it its credit. And in the various Juve WhatsApp chat groups that I'm in, didn't speak to it enough either. But if you go back, you're going to see a goal in which we have possession in the back, going back and forth. Locatelli picks up the ball kind of in the left back-ish position. Very nice cross-field ball over to, I'm not quite sure. It was probably Kalulu who picked it up on that side, and then makes its way back into the middle after some passing on the right side. Locatelli moves more central, picks up the ball again. Nice splitting vertical ball to McKenney, who finds David. Ball gets back to McKenney, who finishes that off. I don't know how many passes there were in total in that possession, but a decent amount. But seeing the ball start from the back, go cross field, come back in, and then split instead of us getting stuck in the upper third, just passing back and forth. But seeing that nice ball through, I just thought was awesome. Do any of you guys agree with me, or am I just like in too close proximity to that goal, and am I over celebrating it?
What are the ingredients to that goal, though? 1, prolonged possession. 2, central play. 3, pace. I mean, we've been saying for how long that's what we were hoping, oh, Motta's coming in, he's going to do this finally, and we're going to see it. And then we just have horseshoe ball, right? Tudor comes in, he plays around the 10s in their movement. We're going to finally see it. No, we say it's chaos ball. Spalletti comes in. And I think the key thing here is, and I know people are totally split on Jonathan David, but having a striker who can collect the ball and distribute to people enables you to play through the middle like we never could with Dusan Vlahovic. And we're seeing 2 goals today that are prototypical. And it's not necessarily a Jonathan David goal. Of any striker who can play, can collect the ball back to goal and play good tight passes. And I think we haven't been utilizing that enough, considering the personnel that we have. Because you saw 2 midfielders interchanging well with a striker like Jonathan David, who can play the ball and to our benefit quickly. I don't see why we're not spraying more passes in and getting guys like Thuram and McKenney making those runs more often, because that is the recipe as far as I'm concerned. Not all the crossing that we've been doing.
We don't have number 9 to finish those crosses. But Frederic, go ahead, please.
Sorry, it was a textbook goal, and I think you're over celebrating. because we don't get to see those kind of textbooks goals often at Juventus. I think that's the reasoning behind that. I think this is a very well put together goal, with a lot of interstations in between, with a lot of pace, and the opposite of sloppiness, which we displayed throughout the game. This was one quick, paced action that was not sloppy, that was very proactive, that was technically flawless in terms of Jonathan David picking up the ball, Luka with the cross pass, I think Kalulu with the control, and so on and so forth, and the finishing of McKenney. So it was a textbook goal, and I hope we get to see more of those, because that's what we need. Because when we execute these kind of movements, then we're really dangerous. I think then we're one of the most dangerous sides in the whole of Europe when everything goes our way. And by that I mean the pace has to be right, the technical ability has to be right, everything just needs to fit. And
Mhm.
because of the nature of our players, we don't get to pull that off too often. But I think if we can switch a few pawns in the summer and have Spalletti work on that and those kinds of attacks, I think we'll be a hell of a lot more dangerous the next season.
Yeah, and I think one of the key elements to this, and I know Locatelli gets a lot of airtime in our discussions, and I do want to pause for a moment on his play today, and like that second goal specifically comes from his cross field distribution, comes from a vertical pass into the opposition third. The defensive work rate today was great, but there was a moment in between these two goals that really stood out to me. There was a moment, probably smack dab between that goal, because a goal came in the 55th and the 64th minute, when Locatelli gets the ball right around midfield. His back is to goal, like that. He's facing our own half with a player on his back. I think the Locatelli of the first half of the season and of the years where he has picked up this reputation of only horizontal passes and back passes and not being an offensive threat, you would have seen him just do a back pass. But he does this move where he turns the player and continues dribbling forward and then makes, again, another vertical pass. And turning on players is not something we have been accustomed to with his gameplay. And I think, again, we are seeing Spalletti's influence and fingerprints on him and making him a better player. And we'll get to man of the match and all that fun stuff later, but that was a good run of play from him today. And I want to go directly to Frederic, because I know you have been critical, and you know I'm a bit biased, right? Like I admit that I've been supportive of him, but keep me honest here on what you saw from him today.
Yeah, like I've been saying that throughout, the last couple of episodes. I think he's really making a difference, especially because of two things. He has the confidence, and he has the coach's support. I think it's pretty obvious. We all feared that he was going to go out of the team when Spalletti arrived, but Spalletti made it very clear that Locatelli is somebody you can count on. Maybe a bit forced as well, because I don't think that we have the financial ability to get a replacement for Locatelli, and so Spalletti has to make do with what he has. But you can go about this in two ways. You can either be very negative about it and change your whole setup just because of the one player you don't like or don't regard as highly, or you can work together with him and try to get the most out of him. And this is what happened. The Locatelli we're seeing now plays with much more pace, much more vertically, a lot more freedom, and maybe I'm I'm reaching for the sky here, but I think that Locatelli, mentality-wise, in terms of his own confidence and his own ability to be a bit more that calming factor on the pitch, has improved as well. I thought prior to Spalletti, even the first games with Spalletti was too frantic, too hectic, too overthinking. Whereas now he comes out more natural, more liberated, so to speak. So that's not only thanks to Spalletti, but also thanks to him, because he was one of the both guys who embraced the whole Spalletti era and tried to do whatever he could. And it was hampered in the past. I'm never going to be the biggest Locatelli fan because I feel a midfielder should have some more attacking presence. But overall, the last couple of games were really, really good. Thought the Cagliari game was a bit less, but that was
The
understandable
whole team
given the nature
underperformed
of
in
that
that
game.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But apart from that, I could say a solid 6, 7, maybe 8 games in a row. Um, and all credits to him. Hats off to him, and I hope he continues this way because he is truly of added value to us. And for me, spoiler alert, he was the man of the match this evening,
Well,
alongside Kelly.
Well, Frederic, you know the perfect hat trick, right? Left foot, you score with your left foot, right foot in your head. Well, the defensive perfect hat trick, Locatelli did today, where he blocked a ball with his feet, his nuts, and his head. So credit for that, because he wasn't
All
a great
three of
passer
them
today, but he was defensively a monster.
unintentionally. Yeah.
I think a little bit of it is coaching, just to support your argument there, Fred. I can't quite get the all competitions data, but if you look at the 20 Serie A games and split them down the middle, which is generally Tudor's half and Spalletti's half, Locatelli's average field position is about 15 yards further up the field, right? So he's definitely being encouraged to push a little forward more. I think he's playing more the length of the field. We saw him almost as part of Kevin, I think you referenced earlier, like he was in a back three, right? And we do see him in some of those forward spaces pushing right at the top of the attacking third. So I think that's a coaching change, right? That's a coach encouraging him to be more progressive, to be more attack-minded, and to look forward and push himself forward as well.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And Frederic, I appreciate the objective review of a player who I know you've been very critical of, and just makes for a nice dynamic here at Turin Giants. Zach, I want to ask you the most critical question to provide just really world-class analysis here. What do you suspect happened on the sideline after that second goal that caused Spalletti to slap Openda?
I was wondering that, and we're inevitably gonna find out. I mean, at any second now, there's gonna be post game comments that we're going to read. But in my mind, in my head canon, Openda is maybe gonna sit back down. Oh, we scored the second goal. Okay, we're gonna sit back and we're gonna defend. And Spalletti's telling him, no, you're going out there to have an influence and to get us a third. So wake up. You got a job to do. And not in a negative sense, but in like a contrary to expectations. We're not about the sit back, the Mourinho style sit back and just sit on your lead. You're out there to do a job, and that job is to score goals.
So do we think, going with Zach's opinion there, it was like this motivational, just like hunker down, just kind of this competitive slap? Hey, you wake up, you good out there, you put in a good performance? Or do you think he was
I think Kevin, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. And my internet kind of froze there. Do we think that it was truly motivational and just trying to fire him up a bit to go out there and put in a good shift? Or do you think he was disciplined and he wanted to get his attention and he was slapping him because he wanted him to get serious?
Yeah, I think that was the case. I think that was the case.
I think so too. He didn't look very happy. Zach, I don't
No, he
think
was.
I don't think he was firing him up.
No, he was because if you look at the images or whatever you can pull out, you could see that Openda was laughing and really not paying attention to what Spalletti was saying. And I think Spalletti, being the coach that he is, always looks for that perfection in detail. Whereas Openda was, somewhere with his head in the clouds, and Spalletti did really appreciate that, I think, and had no other way of showing that to him but to slap him in the face, which I thought was hilarious and deserved.
I honestly
We're
don't
going to see some good memes this evening and going into tomorrow.
I honestly don't care what the story was behind it. I loved it. I love the fire from the coach. I like the passion. I like the attention to detail, like you're saying, Fred. If he's trying to send him out there focused because he wasn't, or Zach, he's trying to give him a little bit of a pep talk going out there because yes, we are still pushing. Whatever the reason was, even if it's like, don't leave your fucking socks on the locker room floor anymore. Yeah. I don't care. I'm glad he was giving it to him.
But you've seen him do this before. I mean, the viral Koopmeiners moment, right, where Koop was coming on in garbage minutes effectively and was sort of like glum, and he pulls his face and he looks at him. What did we talk about at that halftime and what went wrong in the first half is an issue of mentality. It could be focus. It could be, not being happy with your contract situation, like what some people have said about McKenney. It could be a myriad of things. Spalletti can't control a lot of that stuff, but what he can do is get your mind in what we need for this game and in this moment. And a 2-0 victory, what would they say about a 2-0 lead, I should say? What's the most dangerous lead in sports, right? It's that way for a reason. And
you get complacent.
And let's see, Openda was subbed in the 70th minute, and then in the 81st, they get a penalty, right? And if that goes in, you're talking about a completely different complexion of the game. If Openda's out there lollygagging, he's not in a mind state to pivot if Benfica scores. And so, for whatever the context, Spalletti has proven in different scenarios to be able to do what needs to get done in order to refocus people in a snap moment in order to get them locked into what he needs.
Also, by doing that. Oh, sorry, Jack. Go ahead.
No, just real quick. Nothing against it. Like the term garbage minutes always makes my blood boil because I used to say this to my players all the time. There's no such thing because all it takes is one mistake to turn the ball over in your half and you give a goal up, and in a 2-0 game, like you so eloquently said afterwards, that one goal can make all the difference in how the last 10, 15 minutes or so would have played out. So no matter when you come on, you've got to be focused. So if that was the reason for the slap, kudos to Spalletti. Sorry, Fred.
No, it's okay. I just think that you send a strong signal by doing that to the team as well. You send out a strong signal by saying, I don't tolerate any goofing off at this point because this is serious business. And, we can argue about the garbage minutes, but I feel that if Openda thinks that he should get more minutes, it's up to him to prove that in practice. And clearly he hasn't done that. So he has no reason for A, goofing off, or B, not being focused. And I think that was Spalletti's point throughout the whole slapping gate debacle, that he wants to make sure that everybody's focused and everybody is where they should be at this point. Because if Openda was a starter, he would have earned that in practice. He's not, so he didn't earn it. And I think that's Spalletti's way of showing the team we're far from done yet, not in this game, not in the season. So get your mind running, get your head into the game. And kudos for him for doing so, in my opinion.
So we've got two more topics for the match before we look up Spalletti's post-game comments, which I think are now published, and picking our very big testicles of the match award. So each one of the three of you start thinking of your selection. But the two things, very brief moment, talking about the penalty. Don't want to dive into that too much because I don't want karma to bite us in the ass. And then secondly, if we have any perspective or comments on the substitutions. So I think starting with the penalty, and our repeat viewer and good supporter of Turin Giants, Mitch, has a question for you, Zach. What would have happened if Benfica had scored on that PK? I mean, would that have to your point around the 2-0 victory being a very dangerous one in sports, what do you think what would have happened if we were only up 2-1?
It would have been a really stressful last 10 minutes. Benfica had already hit the post earlier in the half, I think the 69th minute. We had 3 subs already in, and at this point, Chico's burst of impact around the 55th to 65th minute marks was past. You had Openda on, who didn't have much of an influence, in Cabal, who was lively, but I don't think necessarily positively influenced the game. And so you really had one of these you would have had one of these chaotic 10 to 15 minutes, and it would have been stressful. You can never predict what would or could have happened, but nothing about Juve's play made me think of, oh, they were just going to see the game out anyways. It didn't matter if it was 2-1 or 2-0. Especially with Locatelli on a yellow card still in the game.
Yeah. Anything else you guys
We're
want to say about the penalty?
We're too fragile, and not just the penalty, but overall, you think that 90% of the time, if you're up with a 2-goal lead, the last 15 minutes of a game, it's bound to be a sure thing. But we are so fragile at times, and so inconsistent that even a 3-0 would have sufficed at certain times, because we are so good at bringing teams back to life in one game due to that fragility. And this is something we need to work on. This is something that can be helped by Spalletti in due time, but also with players. At that point, you need experienced players. And I think, to give another spoiler, I think Spalletti also mentioned this in his post-game comments, we lack experience. We lack, at certain times, leadership. We at times play so bad, he said on Prime Sports, that we make the ball nauseous. So he's happy with the result in terms of us getting there to the next group stage, or whatever you want to call it, in the Champions League in the new format. But he hasn't lost track of reality, and knows that there is still a hell of a lot of work to be done in order for us to get really competitive in the next coming seasons. And I'm glad that he sees those issues as well, because that's the first step to identify the glaring issues and then get on with solving them.
So we had 5 second half substitutions. We've discussed Chico coming in at halftime for kind of a woeful Moretti after a couple nice performances previously, but tonight was not his night. We had Cabal and Openda coming in at the 70th minute mark, followed by Kostic, and then Koopmeiners coming in with a few minutes left to play. We talked about Chico's influence on the match, part of some nice build-up. Still, to me, it's just, there's more to be desired from his output, and you want more chances, you want assists, you want shots on target. We didn't get that from him. It wasn't dreadful, but it wasn't his best outing. Any other comments you guys would want to make about the substitutions? I think aside from Chico's contribution, the other 4 were relatively flat and kind of non-factors in the rest of the match.
I do think Cabal came on and played smart football. In the last 10 or so minutes of gameplay, he drew a lot of fouls and slowed the game down, which I think, again, is important to read the moment there when they're trying to get that goal and come back into the game. So I think he came on and played a smart game. He didn't have 20 minutes, but I think he was effective in his role as a backup to Cambiaso there, and a foil to their attempt to get back into the game.
I
also thought that.
Go ahead, Fred. Go ahead, Fred. I'll go.
No, I thought Kostic had a good sub as well. Yeah. He wasn't that bad, and had a few decent crosses and showed a bit of mentality. I like that, but it just goes to show that, at times, if Kostic is your sub and he does he has a good effort today, that's all good and well, but you need more people, who can bring that next level kind of thing. And that's something we miss as well. The difference in level between the starting players and our subs is at times woeful, and more often than not, it gets us into issues. So also Chico didn't impress me. I thought he come on more spiritedly, with more of a drive and passion and aggression. But I don't know. Maybe this is just Chico and we expect too much of him. Yeah, he did fine. He did okay, but you expect more, especially in games like these. And the fact that we are all waiting for those moments with certain players to happen, be it Openda, be it Koopmeiners, be it Chico, it's getting to be a bit tedious. Like at times, I think we just need to have the heart and management as well to say, okay, it hasn't worked out. Let's move on and progress because we're dragging a dead horse here at times, I feel. But like Kostic impressed me. Sorry, Zach.
I'll say you're talking about you need some experience or something coming off the bench. Well, Kostic, Europa League winner, 30-something years old, gazillion assists at least with a handful of goals. I mean, he's not your ideal veteran presence, but he's the one we have. So him coming on, and you saw he knew he was only in there for limited minutes, and he did the most with what he could. He had way more impact in the game than Koopmeiners did, and in the same amount of time, he had way more impact on the game. And I totally agree with what Jack said, but I feel like from Openda and Cabal, that Kostic showed a more lively thing. And I will say that despite what I just said about Koopmeiners, is I kind of expected Koop to come on earlier. With Locatelli being on a yellow card and the ref clearly not particularly liking Locatelli's shenanigans in the first half, and I say shenanigans, which is unfair to Locatelli because I don't think he was doing anything wrong. But the ref just did not seem to appreciate Locatelli the way he was playing, and that made me a little bit nervous about getting a second yellow. Locatelli also up 2-0 fitness for Napoli, and I kind of expected Koop to be earlier. The fact, and I kind of want to push back a question to y'all, is the fact that we didn't see Koopmeiners until the 86th minute, like, really struck me as a sign that Spalletti doesn't trust him in a game of such importance in that role, even up 2-0. Is that the feeling y'all got from the timing of that sub?
I'd say yes, just from his involvement the past few weeks as well. I think it's clear he's lost a bit of the coach's trust.
Yeah, I think you could tell, and rightfully so. I mean, he's been given chance after chance in several positions, and he did okayish in the back. But every time that he was moved back into midfield, where you all expect, that moment of magic to happen and see the Koop of old again, or the Atalanta Koopmeiners, it just doesn't happen. And now you have Kelly performing like a beast, leaving him out of the team, which leads to the next question: what are we going to do with him? Because obviously there's no room for him in midfield. There isn't any more room for him to be a starting defender. And, with his wages and his transfer fee that
there's
we paid
no
already.
room. I think there's no more patience.
There's room. We are all begging for a player to step up and take over this role or that role. I'm with Kevin on this. He hasn't risen to the occasion, and at some point you have to cut bait. Fishing.
Yeah, but
and so, like, from a Scoop's perspective, Frederic, I imagine over the summer we'll be talking about getting him out the door.
I think so, because I think there's room for a decent player, but the question remains: will he become, or will he ever turn into that decent player that we bought?
Dude,
And
the
I
Atalanta
think
Koop is being studied by archaeologists at this point, man. That's ancient history.
Yeah,
it's like talking about like
second.
Fiorentina Vlahovic, right? It's not relevant anymore.
We signed his doppelganger. We did not sign Atalanta Koopmeiners. He's not the same person. He's not the same player. He doesn't look the same out on the pitch. He doesn't carry himself the same way. His passes are sloppy. His first touch is unrecognizable compared to what he would do. Remember the 2 goals he scored against Juve his last season at Atalanta? The touch he took in the box to settle the ball for himself to finish it out, second time was ridiculous when he scored against us at the Allianz. I've never seen that from him in our jersey.
He was a bigger fish in a small pond there, and just didn't make the transition.
No, but Kevin, fish of all sizes do not forget how to swim when you change the body of water that they're in. Koopmeiners forgot how to play football when he moved to Turin. So we don't have to talk about it so much, but I expected him to come on sooner. He didn't, and that was a signal, at least in my mind. We can leave it there.
And the match finishes with a 2-0 victory, a very important one. As noted, it does guarantee our progression into the knockout phases. So where we currently stand after the 7th round, we are in 15th place on 12 points, 3 wins, 3 draws, and 1 loss. It makes for a very interesting final rounds against a Monaco side at Monaco. Remains to be seen whether we will see Paul Pogba lining up against us or not. But they got spanked by Real Madrid yesterday, 6-1. So it's not the quality Monaco sides we've been used to in the past. But it sets up a very interesting round because right now, the threshold between 8th place and where we are in 15th place is just 1 point. There's a lot of teams, though. We are not in control of our own destiny here. We need a lot of teams to slip up in the final round. Just because I'm looking at the table and everybody might not be. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams on 13 points. So again, we sit on 12 points in 15th place. I don't think we're not mathematically out of finishing top 8, but a lot of teams need to underperform against the right opposition in that final round. And I'm not going to try and go through the mental gymnastics to figure out what the odds are to reach it. But
it's simple though, Kevin. It's simple.
Just need to win the next match, and at least we'll be top seeded for the playoffs.
And then you let the chips fall where they may. A lot of these teams, I imagine, and I haven't studied it either, Kevin. They're probably playing each other. We saw today, or over the last 2 days, a lot of really interesting results going. I mean, the most notable being the Bodo Glimt result. So anything that happens, you go in and you beat Monaco, and then you let the chips fall where they may. If you don't beat Monaco, then there's no question. But this is a Monaco team. What? They've lost, I think, their last 4 or 5 straight league games. A lot of with goose eggs in terms of scoring in a lot of them. They've lost, I think, their last couple Champions League games. The only place they're winning is in the French Cup because they're playing nobodies. You know, this is a vulnerable team. And I mean, not a team that you have to respect. A team you have to respect. You have to respect every single team in this competition. But it's one where I hope we have a good result while we're watching live in in Turin against Napoli, that we can turn into a dominating performance to finish the group stage the way it needs to be finished with a win and put ourselves in the best case to finish top 8. If we finish top 8, that would be enormous. And it starts with winning.
Especially considering the rough run of games we have in the league, right? To have 2 weeks where we don't have an extra game in February is huge.
Yeah, I just focus on winning and game by game. Let's beat Napoli first and then see what lies ahead.
That 2-2 draw against Villarreal, man. If we had those 2 points, we'd be sitting in 5th place, tied for 5th right now, up on 14 points.
If my uncle had 5 balls, he'd be a pinball
I know how that goes, but it just shows how critical.
But that's the story of our season. We're back up on the rise. Then we draw against Lecce's side, or we lose against the Cagliari side, or all these little details. Those are the turning points between being a good team or a team that can potentially be world class, and we're not up there yet with the world class.
But don't necessarily get it. I mean, because at the same time, and I agree with you, Frederic, you're right. But we're sitting 1 point behind the 6th place team, right? I mean, there's a lot that can still happen, and the fact that we're in this position is credit to a turnaround under Spalletti that has showed us play in a completely different manner, have a completely different demeanor on the pitch, and we see a lot of the individual players on our team for the first time in 2 coaches. Notably improve. And so while I agree, let's do the Napoli job, let's win. and then we can all get absolutely wasted and turn together, and then against Monaco, do the professional job against an extremely vulnerable team, 100%. But you're still putting yourself in that position. As Juventus, you want to be you want to be at the top always, but certainly the recent history of our team that's not the truth, especially with a change of coach early in the season.
Yep.
So I choose to look at where we are right now as an opportunity, not a product of something negative.
Speaking of opportunities, if I may hijack this
here we go.
beautiful, it just came to my attention that it's already 17 minutes past midnight here in the EU, or at least in Belgium. So with my limited knowledge of time, I think Zach officially is celebrating his birthday, at least on my continent. So I'd like to invite the chat to send him some well wishings, and I would also take this moment to wish him a happy birthday, and that everything, the chips may fall where they may, and I hope you enjoy your next year, and hopefully we can repeat the things we did the past year. I really enjoyed doing that with you and with all you guys. So happy birthday, my man. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll drink something in Turin.
All I want for my birthday is a win against Napoli. That's it. That's all I'm asking for. I don't need a whole good year. Just give me a win against Napoli.
Tanti auguri a te. Amazing. Let's move on to Spalletti's comments, and then we'll round out with our player of the match, and then we'll wrap this one up. So think about, you're going to need some backup options, right? So you can't repeat players for the man of the match. So depending on the order that
no one's going to choose mine. It's okay. Mine's safe.
So have some backups here. So Spalletti, we had some difficulty. That is an understatement. It was an important match. Things get thrown in your direction if you don't bring these results home. So there is a lot of tension that builds up. He was responding to, I think, a difficult environment with some fans jeering and not being too pleasant towards the squad. He continues, we had started well, then it was balanced with us sitting a little too deep. We lost the ball a few times far too cheaply, and that added even more pressure on us that was unnecessary. I think he's understating that a little bit, but indicates that it was a challenging start to the second half. But then we got back to playing our football. Benfica had chances in the first half, but so did we with Moretti and McKenney. It was in the balance. If they had converted that penalty late on, then it could have been a tense finale. We could have avoided giving away that spot kick because you don't have to go in for a tackle like that every time. Fair. I don't think Bremer knew too much about that one, to be honest. I think he was kicking the ball and that player's foot kind of got in the way, but neither here nor there.
I don't agree. I'll take that defensive aggression any day.
No. I disagree. No,
Yes, there you don't give up the ball at the top of the box right there.
My dude, you do not. You need to know the moment and your positioning and the people around you. These are the crucial moments of the game. This is where your awareness and tranquility is most important. And as a center back, putting themselves in that position where any striker is going to stick out a boot and get a penalty. I mean, look at how Benfica was playing. Half of them were on the ground at any given moment in time. You cannot do that. You absolutely cannot do that.
No, you don't let that ball bounce. No way. You gotta, if you're not going to body him off the ball, you got to do something. He's facing your goal. The offensive player is facing your goal at the top of the box. You need to intervene in some way. I don't think he knew much about it. I don't think he went.
I don't think he did. I don't think he.
I don't want a passive defender in that situation. You need to at least put yourself in a position to try to win the ball. You can't stand and watch that. I get understanding.
Go ahead, finish it.
No, I just to what Zach said. I understand. You do have to understand the moment, and maybe he didn't see it, like I said. But you can't stand there and watch that and let that ball bounce. Letting the ball bounce to the top of your box is an absolute no-no.
Yeah, I 100% agree, Jack. Spalletti was asked, where does he think the team still needs to improve? He responds with, I expect to see a quicker reaction, a quicker prediction of when the opponents are going to come back at you, because the ferocity is part and parcel of modern football now. We've got to have our radar always on. Instead, we lost the ball too often because we were frenetic. We made the ball cough with our stuttering passes. Benfica tried to attack us. These are things we've got to get used to if we want to play at a certain level. Although I have to say I've seen definite improvements, which I think is fair. And he continues to keep us grounded, even in moments that I think could be praised. But he expects more from this team, and so do we. But we got the 3 points. Onwards to the concluding part of today's episode, we move to our
very big testicles.
The big testicles of the match award. Zach, you showed up first, so
I'm always on time.
Yes,
I'm always on time.
So you get to
and
go first.
on time is early, folks. Well, I know that Frederic has already said he's going to choose Locatelli, and Locatelli was who I was originally going to pick with my defensive perfect hat trick joke, but I had to use that one earlier, and I'm pivoting to Jonathan David, a player I don't think y'all were going to pick, especially when looking at Frederic's reaction, and the reason is thus. If a striker has an absolute stinker of a day but scores 2 goals, everyone's celebrating him. Why can't that be true if when the striker gives you 2 assists? And I think the way we scored the 2 goals, granted he didn't technically get an assist on the Thuram one, though both his movement and positioning of the defender and subsequent run to create a shooting alley contributed materially to both goals. And when you have a common player and a 2-0 victory that contributes materially to both goals, they deserve praise.
All right. Not one of my top choices. The chat seems to have some issues with it, but the way you described it, I think, is very pragmatic and fair. Jack, you were second in your arrival. Frederic, you knew you were showing up last after you stepped in with your clamoring internet. Jack, who's your player of the match?
I'll do the kind thing and leave Di Gregorio for Fred. I'll do the obvious one. Manuel Locatelli, for me, was our man of the match. I think he had an impact on the game on the offensive side of the field, but it's his defensive work rate today, which I think made a big difference. 2 tackles, 1 an interception, 4 clearances. He won 60% of his ground duels, but the stat that I like the most are his 5 blocked shots, which were more than all 4 of our starting defenders combined. So my man of the match is Manuel Locatelli.
For what it's worth, I agree, and that would have been my selection as well. Frederic, take us home with your selection. You're muted, my friend.
I'm sorry. Just so, given the fact that I can't pick Locatelli anymore, I'm gonna go with my man Lloyd Kelly.
That's
Once
like the 5th
again,
straight game you've picked him as your man of the match.
My man's flawless. What can I say?
Play.
Yeah, I just feel that he's solid, stable, doesn't get into a predicament, doesn't cause issues. Is very focused, very driven, and especially today, he saved us. I don't know what minute it was, but was it the first half when Di Gregorio made a good save? Credits where credits due, and he came in and tackled the ball away in front of the Greek striker, because that would have been the 0-1 goal, I think. So, his awareness, his physicality, his positioning, his mentality, every game, whether it be against a Cagliari side or a Champions League game against Benfica, always top notch, and I can't fault him. So he is my second pick because I would have gone for Locatelli, but after Locatelli, I think he was the best player on our pitch.
We were pretty in alignment there. He would have been my second for sure. I think plug the scoop and all the noise that surrounds the Juve transfer market. I think Lloyd Kelly and Bremer are going to give Spalletti some headaches if we do manage to land a player like Senesi in the summer. Who do you start? Because I think Kelly's solid. He's our most consistent player without question. Right?
That's a good headache, Jack. That's good headache.
I'll take it. I'm just saying.
You want an embarrassment of riches, not slim pickings.
I don't know.
If those are the opposites.
Did anybody see Gatti with a full head of hair? I hadn't seen that in a while. I saw him warming up on the sideline.
His trip to Turkey panned out quite well.
At least he has something going for him lately.
So if you look across a number of different sporting publications, SofaScore rated McKenney and Locatelli as the highest, each at 8.2. FotMob had Di Gregorio the highest at 8.1, and Gazzetta dello Sport rated Thuram as the highest with a score of 8, followed by David, Locatelli, McKenney, and Digre each at 7. So guys, this was a lot of fun. Frederic, I know it is late. If we hadn't made it clear on previous episodes, or if you're joining for the first time, we have a very exciting next Juve match for the Turin Giants crew, as Zach is actually boarding a flight within kind of the next 24 hours on his way to Turin. Frederic will be flying there on Saturday, and I will land there Saturday as well. So the three of us will be together in person, meeting each other in the flesh for the first time for Juve-Napoli. Jack, who did a tremendous job kicking off and hosting our previous post game against Cagliari. We know that was not the most joyous of matches, but Jack did a tremendous job. He'll be stepping in and running the post game against Napoli, and Zach, Frederic, and myself will be doing our best to join post game and share some of our thoughts live in the moment. But we really can't wait. Can't wait. How excited are you guys? Sorry, Jack. Someone's got to hold down the fort.
I'm like a little schoolgirl. I was talking to Zach yesterday when we did our Scoop episode, and the feeling has only gotten worse. So as the days progress, my anticipation grows. So I'm really pumped and excited. So yeah, let's see if I can catch some sleep the next coming days, because I'm gonna need it.
I'm pumped too. You know, interesting is I was really nervous. Well, not nervous. I grew up in the north, so snow and cold is not foreign to me. But I was like, I don't own anything for cold weather gear. So we're gonna fly to Turin. I'm like, oh gosh, I need a coat, I need a beanie, I need boots. And then I just looked up at the forecast, because there's been reports of a polar vortex hitting the United States, and it will actually be colder in Houston, Texas this weekend than in Torino. So I'm actually flying to warmer weather, which also makes it a positive experience.
I'm just looking at the. We're gonna have a lot of rain though.
Good luck, Zach, to you and Kevin trying to get back home. It's not getting there; it's getting home. That's going to be your challenge.
But after the victory, nothing will matter.
Yeah, it won't matter.
You'll
find me at an airport bar, having a good time.
It'll be great. Well, gentlemen, a pleasure as always. Great to have qualified for the next rounds of the Champions League. The financial benefit goes without saying, just what that means to the team, and being able to compete and continue going is what we all want to see as fans. So I'm glad our Champions League run is not ending anytime soon. For those who joined in the chat, thank you for joining. We know that you're joining from all over the world in different time zones. And for some of you, it's really early. For some of you, it's really late. We appreciate you spending some time with us. And please come back for post Juve-Napoli. And as always, fino alla fine, forza Juve.
Con fa esplodere lo Juventus